the zoom.
But 15 Ultra is even better. I'm kind of, surprised at how good the output is. Even from the HP9, and especially because of the large sensor, he has basically called the 15 Ultra a chonky camera king. The Snapdragon 8 LE that is there on this has crazy good performance when it comes to the overall benchmarks.
Hopefully going to be available for sale after the pre-orders as well. So someone who thinks later on that they want to make up their mind and get that photography kit, they can also do that.
Hello everyone, welcome back to Xiaomi India. Today I'm joined by Anuj and Gautam, and we are here to take a look at some of the reactions, some of the reviews, and some of the first impressions that folks have had after using our Xiaomi 15 Ultra. Now, all of you have seen the videos of the unboxings that we did, as well as the photography kit that we showcased to you and the various features it has. But we also really value feedback at Xiaomi India, and we also wanted to see whether there's any genuine feedback about how we can improve the product and whether folks have really liked all the hard work that we've put in over the past year or so with this particular smartphone. So before we dive right in, I think some of us have seen the early reactions. I think it has been overwhelmingly positive, and I think with good reason. But anything that stands out for either of you that you have seen that people really like, that you also feel you can relate to about the smartphone?
I think it's the impact of the zoom.
Zoom,
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, I think everyone gets surprised the first time you kind of punch in at a 20 or a 30x, then you get the output. And obviously, when I'm saying 20 to 30x, because 20x onwards is where the AI starts kicking in.
Yeah.
But I think it's probably the best AI implementation I have seen
True.
to that aspect of it.
Yeah. I think people finally, after going beyond, the design and everything, finally you see a lot of people trying out that zoom in thing, what, Anuj is talking about, because that is actually very astonishing, right? Like previously also, like when we were kind of testing it before, bringing it to the market, even then, like going through like, I was using a 14 Ultra before this. So, I basically moved here. So kind of appreciate the design, was looking at the main lens and all that. And finally, when I reached that zoom lens is when, I basically hit that a point saying that, okay, this is where it goes like really beyond.
No, I think for me also, I would definitely agree with that. And I think the biggest difference compared to other smartphones, like a few years back also, we saw smartphones technically who could do 120x. But the problem is none of that was usable. You could not put it or share it with anyone. It was like, it's just a tick box. But if I were to upload on social media, no one's going to like that photo, right? But right now, I would say even at 60x, I mean, obviously I've shown you guys the photos that when we went to Barcelona, the surfer shot at 60x, when there's wind, when there's surfing, there's waves, all these things happening. Even then, we're getting a very usable, great photo. So I think that's a big sort of leap. And I think until and unless you try it, you probably don't appreciate it that much. But once you tried, you're like, this is a game changer.
Because the perception still remains that, okay, you're showing off something which is like not usable. Like even when we were showing it to, a couple of journalist friends. Like when we're basically trying it in front of them, zooming in, then they know that it will turn out to be a bad shot because they have seen that in the past. But once they see the result.
Yeah, that's true. I think that shock value is there.
Yeah.
And I think similarly when we were also discussing with Ranjit last time, and he also pinged me this separately, which is why I thought we'll start with him. He was also saying that I'm using it way more than I imagined. And for someone coming from a 14 Ultra, which already was like a great camera phone and a great flagship overall, so he's already enjoying the journey of 15 Ultra, and I think he's also thinking of buying one himself again. So yeah, so I think that's good to see. So I thought we'll start with his review, some of the things that he has said. I think one, of course, what we also agree is the fact that it kind of resembles the Leica M11 series, right? And it's inspired.
That's the idea, though.
Yeah. So that's something that he really likes. And what he was also saying, it's a bigger sensor. It's a bigger, in the sense, the optical sensor for the periscope is bigger. And of course, you also have a larger camera hump. But with that, he has also mentioned that the overall ergonomics are actually quite good. It's not cumbersome to use. It's actually pretty good. He has mentioned the battery efficiency has improved. And he also likes the fact that, even though both phones roughly from a hand feel weigh the same almost, like a 14 Ultra and a 15 Ultra, he still feels like Ultra is better to use on a daily basis. I think one thing he actually wished was slightly better was the storage. I think everyone wants maybe a 1 TB version.
Yeah.
But any thoughts on that?
I mean, I have not really run into that storage problem, but I can understand a lot of people will, especially people who make videos,
Yeah.
right? So that's essentially why we've actually not even started at 128 or 256.
Right, yeah.
So think of it as this way, that most of the other options that you have in the market, to get to that 512 GB storage, you'd be paying significantly more.
Yes.
That's our starting point.
Yeah.
But that's also where we had to kind of cap it off, unfortunately, because moving from a 512 and doubling that storage, and this is expensive storage that we are using,
Correct.
Yeah.
to a 1 TB would have added a lot more money. So it's always a trade-off, and I think, like my laptop, I do use external storage quite a lot, and that external storage may not be as fast, but for a backup, it's a good enough speed. Most of the external SSDs at USB 3.1, 3.2 do a fairly decent job for backing up all of that stuff.
Yeah, and actually, people who do shoot a lot of videos and maybe
They would
professionally,
anyway,
they would anyways carry an SSD
Which
along
is-
with it for
which
that
is-
particular use case. But let's say you are out and about for like a month or so. Like some of the photographers that we talk to are always traveling, like for one month, 2 months, 3 months, whatever. So even if they don't forget to carry, you have like ample space for all your videos and photos.
And when you first activate this, you get 2 TB from Google.
Right. That's actually
So we've
for
actually
3
got
months.
this for 3 months with Google. We've done that tie-up
Yeah.
where you get 2 TB of storage, and you get Gemini Plus and all of the other aspects.
That's worth 5,850 rupees.
Yeah, almost some $6,000 worth of storage. So yeah, if you can probably take 3 months to figure out, do you really need that extra storage or not, and then do this.
I don't think like 99% people or 95% people will go beyond 256 GB.
Probably not.
99.99% people might not go beyond 512 GB because it may not sound like a big deal. Like generally you're coming from 128 GB, you feel that okay, 120 GB extra does not really sound a lot. But once you start trying to fill it up because the system storage and everything is there in that first thing, it's very difficult to, unless you're just downloading like full on, I don't know if people do it now or not, but like full on like video files and all those things.
Yeah, so I think while obviously it's fair, some power users are
Will
asking
need
for
that.
1 TB,
fair.
but like everything else, when you're choosing products, when you're doing the product development, you have to give away some things and take those calculated risks.
Yeah.
I think 512 is not really a small storage.
Yeah.
I'd like to have my, all the competitors that are out there start their storage at 512. Then maybe we should have a conversation there. I think by that time, Xiaomi would have gone way past.
So I think also now coming to the battery side, so he mentioned 14 Ultra was already great battery life wise, but 15 Ultra is even better, and he's really enjoying that and could even go almost 2 days for a regular user. He liked the fact that the natural background blur is there because of the large sensor that's being used, so he does not really need to go for portrait mode, which can sometimes be a bit too aggressive in some cases. So he likes the natural fall off, that depth of field that it gets. He loves the photography kit, the versatility, the flexibility that it gives. I think that is something that no one else now on the market can give. So the photography kit, I think, is a game changer, definitely.
But it's only for the people who pre-order, so that's
Only
it's
pre-order,
going to be a challenge. Anyway, I think it's hopefully going to be available for sale after the pre-orders as well.
Yeah.
So someone who thinks later on that they want to make up their mind, get that photography kit, they can also do that.
Yeah. So I think the other thing I wanted to also discuss is, since we are on the topic of cameras, we had Nirmal actually do a comparison with another smartphone which is also supposed to be great in terms of zoom, right? The S25 Ultra. And in the overall output that we got, we saw that the 15 Ultra was way more superior. So
this is essentially all of us being surprised as well.
Yeah.
A month ago.
Yeah.
When we first started testing.
Correct.
Just for everyone else, we don't build products in isolation. We do obviously internally benchmark with everything out there. Essentially because this has to be the best camera phone that you can get.
So I think most people expected it to sort of outdo the iPhone 16 Pro Max, because obviously it is limited in terms of the zoom range. But
Yeah.
when it goes beyond the S25 Ultra, which is apparently the best out there, not anymore, but that sort of is a pat on the back, I think, to all the folks who worked on this device, I think. Um, Even in terms of the display itself, right? So we had this review from Gizbot, and they were mentioning the fact that this display is one of the best in the market currently. So of course it has the resolution that you want, the micro quad curve display, the 3200 nits of brightness. So every single thing that you need from a display, and especially because you're taking great photos, you need a good screen to view that on. So I think that is something that they've also appreciated.
That 3200 nits is 25% window, not 1% window, which generally
Yeah,
gets
Yeah.
used.
essentially 25% is good enough for most of your HDR shots, right? Because that's a normal HDR shot or a movie, but 25% is where you want that part to shine. So essentially that's where it comes in from. One thing I would have loved, which obviously I know is not really possible on this, but is possible on the tablets, is the nano texture bit.
Yeah. I think maybe let's see what the future holds. But I think the other thing that I also see them calling out is saying that the AI-powered HyperOS 2 provides a smooth user experience with features like voice recognition, translation, image editing, and offers high customization options with 4+6 years of support, software support. So I think that's a great thing, and a lot of people have told us this in the past that after HyperOS there's a lot of goodness when it comes to software on Xiaomi phones, and I think with this the 15 and 15 Ultra, even the support is improving, the AI features are improving. So I think we have taken a significant leap since the past 2 years in terms of software. Anything you want to add on that?
It's
I mean,
always
it
work
is.
in progress, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, these are the flagship, right? This is the best representation or the experience of your HyperOS 2, right? It is a software and it is optimized. It does a lot of things on the background. It does optimize for battery life and all that. And with the chipset that comes in with all the specs that we have, it kind of has to deliver the best HyperOS experience. The experience on Ultra is actually really good.
Actually, that's a good point on optimization, because that's what they have also mentioned here. So they have a two-pronged thing. One, they're saying that the Indian variant has a different battery capacity compared to China. So they were wanting to know what the reason was. Maybe you can answer that. But they were saying in spite of that, the 5400 mAh battery is still pretty good and performs really well throughout the day, and also really fast charging, also 90 watt wired and 80 watt wireless. So any thoughts on the capacity bit?
I mean, for me at least, I'd any day pick bigger battery, as long as it doesn't become so heavy that it's unusable, over faster charging. But that's just me. So, yeah, I mean, unfortunately, we had to kind of pick a different battery and a different charging circuitry and everything else. But that's essentially because we had to comply to certain global standards, which, unfortunately or fortunately, because we're selling this in almost all the key countries across the world, this is something that's possible across.
Also, the speed of bringing the device, basically wanted to make sure that we are as close as possible
To global.
to global. So it makes a lot more sense to basically make sure that people have it at the right time, when they really want to experience it, when they've learned about it, the experience, the photography and all that, and it is very close to that particular launch period. So, and it is a global first, right? When a thing like 14 Ultra, 15 Ultra, these product launches, the entire world goes crazy. We have seen those reviews.
So this time the
best
15
of
Ultra is
MWC.
actually coming before, in terms of how much time 14 Ultra took to come to India.
Yes.
Yeah.
So these are certain alignments that we have to do.
Yes.
And essentially, as we kind of become a larger global flagship player, expect these certifications to be kind of adhered to even more. Net. A lot of these certification bodies obviously are very, very strict, so you can't flout those rules.
Yes.
So I think the other thing I was also noticing is the fact that a lot of people are taking macros with this. So earlier on, if you look at most of the other phones that we have had, you had one main camera that sort of gives you incredible macros. But with the HP9 sensor that we have, while the minimum focusing distance is 50 centimeter, technically you can still zoom in quite a bit and create incredible captures.
Yeah.
So someone who's been doing this quite regularly over the past couple of weeks after receiving the phone is Shiva. So Shiva is basically posting a lot of macro photos
Yeah, I saw
of insects, animals, and stuff. And I'm kind of surprised at how good the output is, even from the HP9, and especially because of the large sensor and that natural blur. It actually looks quite good. And
I'm saying when you kind of give great tools to someone,
Yeah.
people figure out a way to innovate, to use it in different ways, and generally you do have this desire. Like I remember I started this thing from Redmi Note 10 Pro when I finally got that 5MP telemacro and all those things, and that was really fascinating, right? When I clicked those things, so it actually looks very great. So a lot of people have that thing. I think one of the team members in our team also is very fascinated about all this. So generally we get super scared because he's taking macros of spiders and all those things. Like why do you go so close to it? But then once you have a passion for macros, you kind of start seeing those small details. You want to capture those small
But that's the
details.
good part. No? You don't have to go that close this time.
That's also true.
So I managed to capture a couple of shots of bees and all that.
Yeah.
I don't have to go that close.
actually, yeah, that was a really good
It's
shot.
almost some 600 mm.
Wow.
And it looks as good as a normal macro shot where you have to actually go like 4-5 centimeters away, right? So it's an advantage where you can now capture things that you could not earlier,
Yeah.
and usable things. I think that's where it starts making a difference. But I was going to respond to I think one of the threads that Siva had put out.
Yeah.
I was going to respond saying, "Dude, privacy."
That's true. That's true. So next up is basically a review by Aman on India Today, and he has basically called the 15 Ultra a chonky camera king, right? So he said that the 15 Ultra has ace cameras, plenty of oomph in a hefty build, and he did mention that over time he has gotten more used to it. So not that it's a deal breaker, but the fact that it is actually a bit heavier and a bit more top heavy than he expected. Any thoughts on that?
My modification actually makes it even more top heavy. So I don't think you've seen this, but what I've done is I've taken the 67mm adapter from the photography kit and stuck it onto the phone. Right? Because what I realize is that this phone, I'm not going to put the entire photography kit every time, but I end up using the polarizer filter a lot more. Right?
It actually helps. It actually changes a lot of different scenarios.
So especially like I'm going to be traveling this weekend outdoors, so I want that polarized light kind of cut off. So even with this, I'm actually, because this became a lot bigger now because of the 67mm adapter, but I actually found this to be a little more comfortable than it was earlier as well, because that's where my index finger actually rests.
Oh, there's a position to rest it.
Right.
Yeah, that's true.
So when I'm holding it,
Also,
this becomes a place to rest.
protects your lenses. So
I don't know. I never really.
I mean, you don't have to.
I've
but
never
I
really
think,
scratched. I mean, touch wood, but I've not scratched my camera lenses ever. But maybe I'm just a little more careful there.
Yeah, probably because generally people who really care about. I mean, if you look at just photographers, generally people who care about their tech will never let it get scratched unless you have a kid like me and Sandeep. But but yeah, I mean, it does help. Like a professional photographer would also keep a lens cover on.
Correct.
Not because he will throw it or something, but just because he cares so much about it, he'll keep it protected.
Actually, I wanted to try if a 67mm lens cover will fit on this one.
It should fit actually. Yeah.
I saw a fan who had a cover which actually made it look like again a camera.
Yeah.
No, I could do that. But that said, even with the lens adapter kind of fit in,
Balancing it.
I'm able to balance it largely.
Largely, yeah.
Ironically, it's actually tilting downwards.
Yeah, that's what.
So it's not
think I
top
just need
heavy.
to move it a bit more.
But
yeah, it's I think a lot better balanced. In my view, I think the most top heavy phone that we had in this particular series was the 13 Ultra. So that had that little bump coming in before the camera came in.
Yes.
That I struggled with. Compared to that, 14 was comfortable. 14 Ultra, but compared to 14 Ultra, I think like what I think Ranjit was saying.
Yeah, it feels lighter.
Feels lighter. It's not. It's not lighter, but it just feels lighter, which basically goes to show that it's been Balanced even better.
I actually like the heft honestly, because it's not. Personally speaking, it does not feel heavy to me because I'm coming from a 14 Ultra, then 13 Ultra, then 12 Ultra. So it just feels right there. Honestly, I love it. And also because, generally if you look at like professional cameras and all that, they also feel heavy. And
But compared to a 16 Pro Max, this will be lighter, right?
somewhat, yeah, it will be. But then,
Interesting.
interesting point. But I feel like if you're clicking photos and all that, you just feel a lot more confident
Yeah.
that you're carrying something that,
Yeah,
feels really professional.
One aspect of it is, I think during the watch party here, we did do a tear down. So some of our media friends kind of did see what goes into this.
Yeah.
Right? So it's not empty space.
Oh, they saw the sensor? You guys saw the sensor?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we had
we didn't see that. We missed that.
So we had a sensor comparison between 11 Ultra, which at that point for us it was just mind blowing, right? To a 14 Ultra, to a 15 Ultra. You say that yes, I mean compared to the 11 Ultra, when you look back at it, those are puny, right? Compared to what goes into this. So that's essentially why this entire camera part is so big, because these are massive sensors that are fitting in here. Anything a bit more, and we'll have to start moving sideways. But that said,
But then heft that actually delivers.
correct. That's
Instead
what.
of-
So it's not just there for it. Like earlier, these headphone brands used to put small metal rings so that the
just to
headphones
make it feel
heavy.
That's true. And surprisingly not like your run of the mill brands either.
Yeah.
So next up we have something from Rupesh from Silicons. He has spoken about the overall performance on this. So he mentions that the Snapdragon 8 LE that is there on this has crazy good performance when it comes to the overall benchmarks, but also in day-to-day processes. He also likes the fact that it has a fast USB 3.2 port in terms of transferring data. So overall performance is something that he's saying is quite good, and heating is there, but it's only very slight even under heavy loads. So that's okay. Like it's not excessively heating like some of the other smartphones in the market. Anything you want to add on that?
Actually, on performance, it actually delivers great on performance. And I was also started questioning, how is the product team doing this? What are they basically doing? So they are kind of using this unique structure, right? Which is like a 3D ice loop system, which gets, because of the shape in 3D, instead of a flat thing that generally sits on top of the entire motherboard and all those things, it actually goes closer to the chipset. So that's why it can do heat dissipation a lot faster. And as soon as the chip heats up, it basically does that dissipation. So it kind of does help a lot in, maintaining that performance.
It's actually good. I think even in terms of the verdict that he has said, the Xiaomi 15 Ultra redefines smartphone photography with unmatched zoom, a Leica-inspired design, and top-tier hardware, making it a top contender for 2025. So I think that's almost everything that you can hope for in a flagship.
Before the review itself, once I started using it, zoomed in, I knew that this is like the top contender. I mean, generally because internally we keep using a lot of devices, right? So it's very difficult for us to get excited. Someone who's upgrading a phone after an year or 2 years, 3 years has a lot of things to be excited
catch
about.
up on.
That's true.
For us, we generally feel that, okay, it might be like a marginal thing or something, but this actually surprised. I mean, the day we saw the phone, I think we were already...
That was like
okay, it looks very different from whatever we have seen till now.
Correct. That's true. That initial impression itself is... Yeah, that's true. But awesome. So I think that was a quick look at some of the big things that people have said about the 15 Ultra. Good to see that most of it is positive itself. And of course, there are certain things that obviously we'll continue to fix, improve with software updates. But looking forward to seeing more of our users and consumers also getting their hands on this very, very soon. So if you guys have any other questions, any other feedback for us, do let us know in the comments section. Thanks for watching. See you again in the next one.
Xiaomi.